You are standing in the ashes of something you believed would never burn. You told yourself it was written in the stars, sealed by time, anchored by feeling. You built a future in your mind and furnished it with promises that were never signed by heaven. And now you are left staring at the wreckage, asking questions that echo into the night, questions that no human voice seems able to answer. Your heart is loud, your thoughts are restless, and your soul feels as though it has been dismissed, abandoned, left behind. But listen carefully, because this moment, as painful and disorienting as it is, has not taken God by surprise, nor has it removed you from His purpose. You are not the first to confuse intensity with eternity, nor the first to mistake affection for authority. You believed that because something felt deep, it must be permanent. Because it stirred your emotions, it must have been sacred. But feelings are not sovereign, and people are not gods. When you give divine weight to a human relationship, it will eventually crush you, because no person was ever designed to carry the full weight of your soul. You were created with a depth that only the eternal can fill, and every time you demand that depth from something temporary, you will suffer disappointment that feels unbearable. You say goodbye was spoken for good, and that phrase pierces you like a blade. But what if what ended was never meant to be ultimate? What if the closing of that door is not the death of your future, but the rescue of your soul? You grieve not only the person, but the dream you wrapped around them. You are mourning a life that never existed outside your imagination, and that grief feels real because it is real. But grief does not have the authority to define truth. Pain is a powerful voice, but it is not an infallible guide. There is something dangerous about calling another human being your salvation. There is something idolatrous about building your identity on the presence of another. When that presence leaves, you feel as though you have ceased to exist. But your existence was never rooted in their affection. Your worth was never signed by their approval. Long before they knew your name, before they entered your life, and before they exited it, you were already known, already seen, already sustained. You are not broken because someone walked away. You are exposed to the reality that you leaned on a foundation that could move, exposed to the truth that your hope was invested in something fragile. And now that it has collapsed, you feel naked and afraid. But exposure is not destruction. Exposure is mercy. It is far better for a false refuge to fall now than to carry you into a deeper ruin later. Do not romanticize what has left you. Do not rewrite history to make their absence a tragedy greater than it truly is. There were signs you ignored, truths you minimized, warnings you silenced because you wanted the story more than you wanted the truth. And now truth has interrupted your narrative. That interruption hurts, but it is also an invitation to stop pretending that love alone is enough, an invitation to examine the direction of your life, the objects of your devotion, the source of your joy. You feel as though something has been taken from you, but what if something has been returned? What if your heart, which you placed in the hands of another, has been given back to you bruised, but alive? You have an opportunity now that you did not have before. The opportunity to learn who you are when no one is applauding, when no one is choosing you, when no one is promising to stay. This is where character is formed. This is where faith is tested. This is where truth becomes more than a word you say and becomes a reality you live. You want answers. You want to know why it ended, why it had to hurt this much, why you were not enough to make them stay. But some questions are not answered because they are the wrong questions. The better question is not why they left, but why you believed their staying was the ultimate good. The deeper issue is not their departure, but your dependency. And dependency, left unchecked, will always lead to despair. There is a lie whispering to you right now, telling you that this loss defines you, that you will never recover, that you have missed your one chance at happiness. That lie feeds on your exhaustion and drinks from your tears, but it is still a lie. Your life is not a novel that ends at one chapter. Your value is not determined by one relationship. Your future is not sealed by one goodbye. You must understand something that may offend your emotions, but will save your soul. If someone can leave you, then they were never meant to be the foundation of your life. If their absence can destroy you, then their presence was never meant to complete you. Completion does not come from another broken human being. Completion comes from being reconciled to the purpose for which you were created. You are alive for more than romance. You breathe for more than companionship. Your heart beats for more than shared memories and mutual affection. There is a calling on your life that cannot be fulfilled by holding someone's hand. There is a work to be done in you and through you that requires strength, clarity, and truth. And sometimes the most loving thing that can happen is the removal of a distraction that felt like a necessity. Do not rush to replace what has been lost. Loneliness has a way of making you desperate, and desperation makes you foolish. Sit in the silence, let it teach you, let it strip away the illusions you clung to, let it reveal what you truly believe about love, about worth, about God. This is not a season to numb the pain, but to confront it with honesty. You are not being punished, you are being refined. Fire does not destroy what is genuine, it reveals it. And right now, your faith, your priorities, your understanding of love are being tested by fire. What remains will be stronger, purer, more aligned with truth than what existed before. You may feel abandoned, but you are not alone. There is a presence that does not walk away, a commitment that does not fade, a love that does not fluctuate with mood or circumstance. You were never meant to draw your deepest security from a human promise. Human promises break, divine faithfulness does not, and until you learn the difference, you will continue to bleed every time someone changes their mind. Stop measuring your worth by who chooses you. Stop interpreting rejection as a verdict on your value. People leave for many reasons, most of which have nothing to do with you and everything to do with their own limitations, fears, and sins. You are not the judge of your own worth, and neither are they. This pain is calling you to grow up, not to harden your heart, but to strengthen it. Not to become cynical, but to become wise. Not to shut down love, but to place it in its proper place. Love is a gift, not a god. When you make it a god, it will demand sacrifices you were never meant to give. You will be tempted to look back, to replay conversations, to imagine different outcomes. But nostalgia can become a prison if you let it. You cannot move forward while living in a memory. What is done, the goodbye has been spoken, and though it feels final, it does not have the authority to dictate your destiny. Stand up in your soul. Refuse to let sorrow rule you. Grief may visit, but it must not reign. You have been given breath today for a reason. You have been preserved through this heartbreak for a purpose. There is more ahead of you than behind you, even if you cannot see it yet. This is the moment to anchor your life to something unshakable, to build on truth rather than emotion, to seek a love that does not leave you empty when it withdraws. When you do that, you will look back on this season not as the end of your story, but as the moment you were rescued from a lesser life and called into something greater, something deeper, something real. No human relationship was ever meant to carry the weight of your soul, and yet this is one of the most common mistakes people make. From an early age, the heart longs for attachment, for affirmation, for someone who sees and stays. That longing itself is not evil. It was placed within you for a reason. But when that longing is aimed at another human being as the ultimate source of meaning, identity, and security, it becomes a burden no person can bear. You begin to expect from someone what only the eternal can give, and when they inevitably fail to meet that expectation, the collapse feels catastrophic. The human soul is vast. It was designed with depth, with hunger, with a desire that stretches beyond time and circumstance. No matter how kind, committed, or sincere another person may be, they are finite. They are limited by weakness, by fear, by changing emotions, by mortality. To ask them to hold the full weight of your soul is to ask them to become something they are not. And when they cannot be that for you, you feel betrayed, even if they never promised to be your savior in the first place. This is why relationships that are built on emotional dependency eventually become suffocating. One person becomes the center, the anchor, the reason for joy, and the explanation for sorrow. The self slowly dissolves into the relationship, and without realizing it, you begin to live off borrowed worth. Your sense of value rises and falls with their attention. Your peace depends on their presence. Your future feels secure only if they are in it. That is not love. That is desperation dressed up as devotion. When a human relationship becomes the place where you go to feel whole, you give it a power it was never meant to have. You turn affection into authority. You turn companionship into identity. And once that happens, fear enters quietly but persistently. The fear of being left, the fear of not being enough, the fear of change. Even while the relationship exists, anxiety thrives, because deep down you know that what you are leaning on can move. This is why the loss of such a relationship does not just hurt, it devastates. It feels as though the ground has been pulled out from under you, as though life itself has lost its meaning. But what you are experiencing in that moment is not merely the pain of separation. It is the exposure of a misplaced foundation. The grief is intense because the dependency was deep. The emptiness feels unbearable because the relationship had been asked to fill a space it could never truly occupy. There is a dangerous belief that circulates quietly in the heart, telling you that if you just find the right person, everything will finally make sense. That your restlessness will disappear, your insecurities will be silenced, your wounds will heal. But people do not heal souls. They can only walk alongside them. When you believe otherwise, you place impossible expectations on them and crushing pressure on yourself. You begin to perform for love instead of receiving it freely. Human love, at its best, is a gift. It can encourage, support, sharpen, and comfort, but it was never meant to replace purpose, truth, or faith. It was never meant to define who you are. When it tries to take that role, it eventually becomes distorted. Love turns into control, care turns into fear, commitment turns into possession, and the relationship that was meant to enrich life begins to consume it. One of the hardest truths to accept is that even the most sincere love between two people cannot cure emptiness that comes from a deeper source. You can be deeply loved and still feel hollow. You can be chosen and still feel lost. You can be desired and still feel unseen. These contradictions confuse people, so they often double down, seeking more affirmation, more closeness, more reassurance, thinking that intensity will fix what depth alone can address. When a relationship ends under these conditions, the pain feels personal, final, and absolute. You do not just lose the person, you lose the meaning you attached to them, you lose the future you imagined, you lose the identity you constructed around being chosen by them, and suddenly you are faced with a frightening question: who am I without this? That question is terrifying only because it was never answered before. No human relationship was ever meant to answer the question of who you are. That question is too heavy, too sacred, too foundational to be placed in the hands of another broken person. When you let someone else define your worth, you surrender your stability. When they leave, change, or fail, your sense of self collapses with them. This is why emotional independence is not coldness, it is wisdom. There is a difference between loving deeply and leaning destructively. Deep love allows freedom. Destructive dependence demands permanence. Deep love can survive loss without losing identity. Destructive dependence cannot imagine life beyond the relationship. One enriches the soul, the other consumes it, and the difference lies not in how much you care, but in where your foundation rests. People often resist this truth because it feels harsh. They want to believe that love should be enough, that two hearts joined together can carry anything. But history and experience say otherwise. Even the best relationships experience conflict, misunderstanding, distance, and change. Even the most devoted people grow, struggle, and sometimes walk different paths. If your soul is anchored to something that can shift, your inner world will always be unstable. Understanding this does not mean withdrawing from relationships or becoming guarded and cynical. It means putting them in their proper place. It means allowing people to be human without making them responsible for your existence. It means receiving love with gratitude rather than clinging to it with fear. It means being able to say, I am thankful for you, but I am not defined by you. When you stop asking a human relationship to carry the weight of your soul, something remarkable happens. The pressure lifts, the fear lessens, the need to control fades. You are able to love more honestly because you are no longer using love as a survival strategy. You stop grasping and start giving. You stop performing and start being. And paradoxically, relationships become healthier when they are no longer treated as lifelines. This truth is often learned through pain because pain has a way of stripping away illusions. When a relationship ends and you feel undone, it reveals how much weight you placed on it. That revelation is painful, but it is also merciful. It gives you the chance to rebuild your inner life on something sturdier. It invites you to discover an identity that does not disappear when someone else does. You were not created to orbit another human being. You were created with intrinsic value, purpose, and dignity that exist regardless of who walks beside you. Relationships are meant to complement that reality, not replace it. When you understand this, loss no longer destroys you because it no longer defines you. The sorrow may still come, but it does not erase you. A soul anchored in something eternal can grieve honestly without collapsing completely. It can remember without being imprisoned by memory. It can move forward without denying the past. That kind of strength does not come from emotional numbness. It comes from proper order. When the deepest needs of the soul are met at their rightful source, human love becomes a blessing rather than a burden. The weight of your soul is immense. It includes your fears, your hopes, your guilt, your longing, your questions about meaning and destiny. No human relationship, no matter how beautiful, was designed to carry all of that. When you finally release that weight from another person, you do not lose love, you purify it. And in that purification, you begin to experience a freedom that dependency could never give.